theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Just a quick note following up on the discussion we were having before the news last hour about Congresswoman Delia Ramirez. Jeannie Ives alerted me to this, as our friend Tony from Downers Grove said. Jeannie Ives is out there talking about this stuff too, but this is not a one or a couple person job. So show up if you can. There's a town hall Delia Ramirez is having on Tuesday, August 19th, 6 p.m., Belmont Cragen Town Hall, and you have to go to her website. This is so interesting, too. You have to go to her website and RSVP to receive an address as to where a town hall is for a member of Congress, ostensibly your member of Congress. Crowd control? You're a public official. You have a town hall, put it everywhere. Come one, come all. No, you have to RSVP. What is a special invitation to go to a town hall and address a member of Congress? Indicative of the attitude. Belmont Cragen Town Hall, Delia Ramirez, August 19th. Go to her website, sign up, and show up and offer your thoughts on the identitarian rap that she is running as the duly elected representative of Illinois 3, where she is a proud Guatemalan, and also an American. Yeah. Okay. Opportunities. Speaking of opportunities to clarify positions and debunk specious arguments, this was the opportunity that Douglas Murray was afforded when he appeared on Piers Morgan's show. The specious argument is that the problem in Gaza at present is the uncompromising Netanyahu government. Bibi is too strident, and that is preventing a deal with Hamas to exact a ceasefire for the purposes of stopping the killing. That was the predicate. And Douglas Murray, the author and commentator, had this to say in response. It's extended, but it's worth a listen.
But do you not feel that something has to give here, that this has to get resolved somehow, and that the only way to do that is, as with all these situations, you have to eventually compromise in some way? And the problem for Netanyahu is that people think he is completely incapable of offering Hamas any compromise, and therefore there is no deal. So the families of the hostages still there, and hundreds of thousands of protesters in Israel on the street to Tel Aviv right now, they are of the firm belief that it's his own intractable position on this, which is not going to allow any kind of ceasefire to be achievable.
But there again, if I can say so, Piers, it's the same thing, which is the presumption that it's Netanyahu who is uncompromising. We end up with this, again, because Netanyahu is a democratically elected leader, and so it's assumed that some pressure can be brought to bear on him. In my view, it is not Netanyahu who's uncompromising. It's Hamas that's uncompromising. They could have handed back the hostages last October. They could have not done this. I mean, they could have tried to build a state since 2005, when Israel withdrew from the Gaza, and handed the place over to them. Hamas could have used the billions of dollars and pounds and euros that British and European and American taxpayers gave them since 2006. They could have used those billions of dollars to build up Gaza. They could have made a booming, in the good sense of the term, Mediterranean paradise. They could have created wealth for their people. But you know what they did? They built down instead of upwards. They built a tunnel network bigger than the London Underground for all of those years, and they squirreled away the money, just like Yasser Arafat did before them, and they made themselves rich. Why was Ismail Haniyeh worth billions of dollars? Why does Khaled Mashal, why is he worth billions of dollars? Why are their children like princelings who live in apartment complexes in Doha because they took the money of Americans and Brits and Europeans and they took it for themselves and kept the people of Gaza in immiseration and poverty. There has been since 2005 a complete counterfactual of what could have happened. But the Hamas leadership didn't want that. They have said themselves they want to use Palestinian children and their lives in order to pressurize the world. These are fanatics. They want the death of their own citizens, in order to get world opinion turned against Israel. Again, how do you negotiate with that? The assumption always is in the West today, because we're so sort of fat and lazy in our expectation that peace is the norm, and that historically it's the norm. We're so full of our own expectations and presumptions that we always think that wars end by some kind of compromise and coming around the table, to use the cliche. They don't. Historically, most wars end because one side wins and one side loses. And one of the reasons, in my view, why there is this endless rounds of war in this region is because the Israelis are never allowed to win, and Hamas, in this case, are always allowed to draw. And I think that that is simply to set up the precursor for the next conflict. If Hamas come out of this with a fighting capability, then there will be another round of this war in a couple of years. So when David Lammy and others say what we need to have is a peace deal, I'd say on what terms? Everybody wants peace except for Hamas and the fanatics. Everybody else wants peace. All of these people in the south, these kibbutzniks and the party goers and others who were murdered on the 7th, all dreamed of peace with their Palestinian neighbors and brothers and sisters. Who stopped that peace being possible? Hamas, from 2005 and again to this very day.
A pretty tight case, I would say, that Douglas Murray makes. Pretty tight case. And the difference this time around, seems to me, and it should be, is that Netanyahu is not asking permission from the West. You know, the Douglas Murray, Israel's not allowed to win. Well, that's sort of self-imposed because they act in a constrained way based on, I wouldn't say international opinion, but opinion in the West, specifically in America. And they shouldn't, for all the underlying reasons that Douglas Murray offered. That's my view. Let's get others. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Itai, Biran, Counsel for Political and Commercial Affairs at the Consulate General of Israel to the Midwest. Itai, Biran, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Dan. Good morning.
Good morning. So what about that? I mean, what about what would your response be in addition to, or perhaps distinguished from Douglas Murray's, as to this idea that Israel is not willing to compromise, Netanyahu is being too intransigent, and this is why we don't have a ceasefire and we're not on a path to peace in the Middle East?
I think I couldn't say it better. You know, on October 7th, Hamas invaded Israel without provocation. They murdered, raped, and tortured civilians, burning families alive. Children were killed in front of their parents. Parents were murdered in front of their children. And 251 hostages were dragged into Gaza. And today, while we're speaking, right now, 50 remain in brutal captivity. Just in this past weekend, I don't know if you saw it or not, but the world saw the starvation and torture of the Israeli hostages, Eviatar David and Ron Koslevsky. They looked like living skeletons. Eviatar was even forced to dig his own grave. Now, Hamas still refuses to release the hostages. Hamas still refuses to lay down its arms. And just like Douglas Murray said, okay, these are the two objectives, and whenever it happens, the war will end.
And rather than providing that sort of perspective on things, even though we're removed from the instigating event, which is the terrorist attack on October 7th. You get stories like this from the Associated Press. I mean, there's a real sickness here in the D.C. press corps and in wide swaths of America, I'm afraid to say, including in a few repositories on the right, which I'm very sorry to say. The Associated Press story, survivors of Israel's pager attack on Hezbollah struggle to recover. We've seen pictures, not widely distributed, but pictures that you're talking about the hostages being starved to death. And the Associated Press is focused on Hezbollah terrorists struggling to recover from a quote-unquote Israeli attack. These are terrorists of a known terrorist organization as so decreed by this State Department and the State Department under Biden, the State Department under Obama, going back as far as I can remember, who terrorize people in Lebanon and Syria and Israel, murder, rape, enslave, all the things that Hamas does. And we're supposed to be moved by their struggle to recover from those who survived a response from Israel to their terrorism.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that this is a representation of, I would say, marginal positions. Because I think that the vast majority of Americans understand and know that Hezbollah and Hamas both are designated terror organizations. Designated, I mean, by the United States of America. Now, look, both Hezbollah and Hamas run a propaganda machine, and we all know that, okay? And unfortunately, some of the global media is sometimes amplifying these lies, not always, by the way, intentionally. Sometimes it's just out of, ignorance or lack of knowledge.
The Associated Press is running a propaganda machine too, and it's difficult to say. I'm Associated Press, and we're supposed to look at this organization. They think of themselves as vaunted news organization, and their content is redistributed in local periodicals throughout the country and so forth. The we didn't know argument, I don't know that provides much absolution.
Sorry?
I said the we don't know argument. Like if we didn't know about this, if Associated Press was, there's no absolution for the Associated Press.
Look, it's a free country. Everyone can say whatever he wants, and I respect it. Okay, I do think that the majority of Americans, they know better. They know how to make their research. They have a lot of other sources that they consume their information from. And I guess that when you know the facts, it looks ridiculous. Like even trying to support the Hezbollah militants is I'm trying to find the right word,
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, this stuff is getting so wild. The Jerusalem Post reporting, an heiress from the German industrial dynasty that profited from producing Zyklon B, the gas used in Nazi death camps, will participate in the next pro-Palestinian flotilla to Gaza. Marlene Engelhorn explaining in an Instagram post, I decided to join the flotilla because I wanted to support the effort to end this genocide. I mean, this is like something out of a Kafka novel.
This is ridiculous, of course, and I believe that everyone who seeks peace and wants to promote stability and prosperity in our region should oppose Hamas and not support it.
Well, okay, so France and the UK essentially threatening the Netanyahu government to effect a ceasefire before the UN meeting in September, or they're going to effectively recognize some yet to be defined Palestinian state. What's the response to that?
It's very simple, in my opinion. Recognizing a Palestinian state after October 7th is just handing reward to Hamas. Hamas senior official, it was, I believe, only a few days ago, Hamas senior official, Ghazi Hamed, admitted that recognition would be the fruits of October 7th. It's his words, okay? So this is rewarding terror, plain and simple. And a Palestinian state must not be born from the ashes of the Israeli massacre. It's very simple, and this is our position.
And, the controversy this week, the allegations by retired Green Beret and one-time contractor to a company that worked, I guess, in concert with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Tony Aguilar is his name, and he's making accusations about the aid centers being essentially death traps and designed to be death traps, and that IDF forces are firing on unarmed Palestinians trying to go to one of these aid centers to get food and water and so forth. What's the response to what's happening, what is alleged to be happening at the aid centers at the hands of IDF forces?
Yeah, so look, Israel is enabling massive humanitarian efforts, okay? And I would say that Hamas is looting and weaponizing this aid. Since the start of the war, we have facilitated unprecedented humanitarian aid to Gaza, and you can check. Don't take my words. Just you can always just check the facts. Okay, aid has been delivered on a scale never seen before in a wartime, in my opinion. And Hamas just loots this aid, resells it, and uses the profits to fund terror. So we had, all of us, with our partners, had to find a new mechanism. And the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the GHF, okay, they do their work on a daily basis, faces challenges that, it's not that easy to face. And they have delivered over 106 million meals directly to civilians. Now, Israel has opened private sector channels as well to bring in more foods, baby formula, and hygiene products. Just yesterday, over 300 trucks entered Gaza, and it happens on a daily basis. Again, we are trying to do our best over there, and I believe that there is a success, and we need to make sure that Hamas does not use this mechanism to gain control again in Gaza Strip. What
is the prevailing attitude of the Israeli people as in terms of the prosecution of this war against Hamas to essentially eradicate that terrorist organization after these many years of the back and forth that Douglas Murray described?
Yeah. Look, a very important lesson that October 7th taught us, okay, is that peace cannot be made with those who seek your destruction. Okay, there can be no peace while our loved ones are over there and while Hamas is still in control. Okay, look, Hamas founding charter calls for Israel's annihilation, and I think that we have decided that once and for all, okay, we cannot accept that the Gaza Strip is being ruled by this terror organization, and this is the understanding among the Israelis. Okay, they understand. They want to live in peace. They want to live in prosperity. Okay, and this could not happen with Hamas whatsoever.
Itai Biran is Counsel for Political and Commercial Affairs at the Consulate General of Israel to the Midwest. Itai Biran, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm worried about Mom. She's having a tough time moving around the house.
Oh, I know. She still thinks she can do everything on her own.
Exactly, but I've been over there